So I'm Thomson. We're doing a three-part presentation. I'll try to speed it along. Brief introduction. When Tom asked us to do this right before the holiday break or the winter break, depending on your religious inclinations, I hadn't really read The Raven before. I knew about it. It's one of those poems that you know if you haven't read or whatever he said. But I got thinking. I read it. I got thinking about it, and it actually got me pretty excited. And I think that it's pretty radical. Some of the things that Poe did in the poem, and like the two people who read before us, we're concerned with a translation of Poe's work. It's, I think, a pretty unorthodox translation. Here it goes. The roller coaster is frequently, maybe too frequently, invoked as a metaphor. The roller coaster of love, the roller coaster ride through the worsening recession, the disorienting roller coaster of a pulp novel, the edge-of-your-seat roller coaster ride of an action-packed blockbuster movie. It's a tyrannically reductive catch-all phrase. And excuse me if I'm mistaken, but I do not believe that this kind of talk gets bandied about in discussions of poetry very often. Set side by side, the roller coaster might be seen as opposed to the poem in many ways. The roller coaster is a vehicle of mass entertainment, found only in increasingly corporatized theme parks that are themselves increasingly on the side of cultural homogenization that is not for nothing known as Disneyfication. The roller coaster appeals exclusively to that primitive fascination with speed and machines and violence that lies within all of us, and especially within certain forward-thinking Italians of the first decade of the previous century. The roller coaster provides a completely non-intellectual experience, thrills that are short and empty in that they leave a very uncomplicated impression if they leave one at all. The roller coaster is the desire for immediacy, and for all of its rambunctiousness, it possesses a static meaning that cannot grow or change as its riders do. The poem, by contrast, is not so much for plebeian entertainment as it is for a more sophisticated and adult pleasure. It is a work of art. It is on the side of individuality, of difference and private feelings, and so must be resolutely opposed to the experiential monotony and public display of over-obvious excitement common to all roller coaster rides. The poem is not enjoyed as a spectacle, but understood as an occasion and an invitation for reader participation. The poem shares its secrets gradually, unfolds slowly over time, and only under a loving and patient gaze. Its end effect is emotionally and intellectually complex, and its meaning changes as its reader changes. That's why The Raven is truly remarkable. It is, to my knowledge, the only poem yet that has been performed as a roller coaster. The Raven is a traditional wooden roller coaster at Holiday World, located in the town of Santa Claus, Indiana. Though it has broken no records for height, length, speed, or really for anything, it has been consistently named as a favorite of roller coaster enthusiasts since it opened in 1995. In 2000, it was awarded the Golden Ticket Award for being the #1 wooden roller coaster on the planet, a title which it held until 2004, when it was dethroned by the Boulder Dash of Lake Componse Park in Connecticut. Though it has not since recovered its former prestige, the Raven has consistently made the top 10 ever since. And it may have held the #1 slot for a year longer than it rightfully should have, considering that in May 2003, during Holiday World's Stark Raven Mad event, a woman fell from the coaster 69 feet to her death. Both the Raven and its sister coaster, the Legend, themed after the mythology of the Headless Horseman, were shut down while the death was investigated. But no evidence of mechanical defect or unsafe conduct by ride operators was uncovered, and the death to this day remains unexplained, deemed an accident by the coroner's office. Said a spokesman for American Coaster Enthusiasts, a group to which the deceased had formerly belonged, her death was like a big mystery, and nobody knows for sure what happened. It may be difficult to recognize the poetry of Poe's classic in the towering wooden frame of the ride, but there it is, albeit radically transformed. I'm asking you to imagine what it might be like to read a roller coaster ride as a poem. Like Tom said, you don't even need to read the poem to know it. What might it mean for the private to be rendered as public in this fashion? Imagine the shared expectation of the riders, the shared discomfort, restlessness, and boredom of the long wait in line, followed by the shared elation during the ride. What might it mean for a complex intellectual and emotional engagement to be transformed into a purely somatic experience of speed and disorienting motion? With nothing to think about, one can finally be fully present in the poem's moment. What might it mean for the rhythm of the lines to be reduced to carefully engineered calculations of speed, distance, time, and g-forces? Just as the details of meter and rhyme can elude the uncareful reader of poetry, we will have to train ourselves to recognize these structural elements of the roller coaster ride, and not with our minds or hearts, but with our bodies. And if we could come to know the roller coaster as a poem, what other experiences might be so transformed? By encompassing that which is its opposite, poetry could become the fabric of everyday life itself, and by transcending its essentially subjective nature through the shared medium of the ride, the poem could become that which it has always wanted to be, a tongue in common for all humankind. It's a lot to swallow, I know. Pretty deep stuff in there. But Kaegan will now illustrate some of the connections that I've just talked about in a comparison of the poem to the actual layout of the roller coaster itself. Thank you.
So you'll have to excuse us. We were meant to have a corresponding diagram for this explanation, but due to practical difficulties, we'll have to forgo that, I think. Indeed. Okay, so I want to present for you today 8 strange but true correlative facts between the roller coaster, the Raven, and Edgar Allan Poe's poem. 1. Edgar Allan Poe died mysteriously on October 3rd, 1849. The final approval for naming the Raven roller coaster was made 145 years later, to the day. 2. Even the coaster itself is designed as a literary vehicle. The 6 cars refer to the 6 lines in each stanza. Each car seats 4 riders, and with 2 feet for each rider, there are a total of 8 feet per car. Just so, the poem is written in octameter with 8 feet per line. 3. In order to immerse you in the narrative of Poe's poem, engineers and conceptual designers worked together to begin the ride in darkness. Invoking the same gloom of the secluded nighttime chamber scene, Once Upon a Midnight Dreary. 4. The eerie mood continues as the entire ride is hidden in the woods, and the Raven's tapping is mimicked by the creaking of the old wooden mechanism on its track as it ascends the first major drop. 5. Indeed, this 85-foot drop was carefully placed, even to a seemingly neurotic degree of correspondence. 85 trochaic feet into the poem, we find the precipice of the second stanza, the last line relieving the double dash after the invocation of the sacred name Lenore. Nameless here forevermore. 6. Next, a 120-foot tunnel coincides with the point of Poe's speaker finally acquiescing to the insistent noises of the Raven, opening his bedroom door to see darkness there and nothing more. 7. The second major drop mirrors the discovery of the Raven, at which point the car is covered by a thick canopy of trees and a resounding bird call echoes from 6 surrounding speakers in turn. Quoth the Raven, nevermore. 8. The ride finishes with an allusion to the immobile brooding raven that, never flitting, still is sitting, just above the chamber door. Entering into its shadows underneath a perched raven, the coaster slows to a finish back inside the chamber platform. The poem itself is highly regular, both in form and the relentless conflict between speaker and the raven. The continuous loop of the roller coaster track maintains this persistent, inescapable closed form. And so now I'll introduce Michael Thom, third partner.
Thanks, Kaegan. At this point, I would say that we've firmly established the connection between the roller coaster, the Raven, and Poe's original poem, which is so rife with intertextual urges. And so I have created, I've created a video piece to attempt to reunite these seemingly disparate elements of Poe's poem and the holiday world Raven roller coaster. In the poem, the death hangs over the narrator, quite literally, in the form of a raven perched over his door, recalling the death of Lenore. In the same vein, the roller coaster is also overshadowed by death. Generally, the excitement of riding the roller coaster derives from the rush of danger associated with the sudden drops of the track and the jolting movements of the cars, and from, in other words, a constant impending threat of death. More specifically, the Raven roller coaster itself at Holiday World is overshadowed by the death of Tamar Fellner of New York, New York, on the ride itself in May 2003, as Thomson highlighted earlier. So here I have combined point of view footage of the Raven roller coaster with a section of the text of Poe's poem, and to reference the dark, macabre elements of Poe's work, I used a reading of the poem by Vincent Price, which Tom mentioned earlier, I believe, as well as selections from the 1965 horror film The Bloody Pit of Horror. The grotesque visual elements and gothic setting of The Bloody Pit of Horror evoke Poe's other works, The Cask of Amontillado and The Mask of the Red Death in particular. And I've inserted these clips to coincide with long drops on the roller coaster as reference to Fellner's death at one of these exact points. And also, I would like to encourage anyone in the audience who feels the mood strikes them to stand up and physically experience the roller coaster as it moves, in the manner that you would normally. Feel free to scream